3 Sinister Janitor Horror Stories revealed. Haunting secrets of the cursed and unexplained. As the sun dipped below the horizon, dread seeped into the walls of Evergreen High. Lisa, a tired single mother of 2, slowly pushed open the heavy doors. The fluorescent lights buzzed menacingly, flickering like a heartbeat echoing through the empty corridors. She donned her faded blue janitorial uniform, the familiar scent of cleaning supplies mixing with the lingering whisper of teenage laughter that once filled these halls. But tonight felt different. An eerie chill crawled up her spine as her eyes were drawn to the shadows pooling near the storage closet. Mr. Caldwell, the school's longtime janitor, stood there, his gaunt figure backlit, flickering like a specter in the dim light. Rumors swirled around him like an ominous mist. He was a dark figure with a haunted past, steeped in stories of tragedy and dark rituals etched into the school's history. Just my imagination, Lisa murmured under her breath, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling gripping her heart. But no sooner had she begun to sweep the forgotten hallways than sinister energy settled heavily around her. The lights flickered more violently, shadows stretched ominously, and then whispers. Lisa called a voice she didn't recognize. Panic surged through her, clawing at her throat. Unease twisted like a noose around her chest. She struggled to refocus her mind as she noticed items she had neatly arranged earlier were now bizarrely out of order, eerily forming cryptic warnings she couldn't grasp. The air thickened, pulsing with something that demanded her attention. Each corridor looked more like a maze, and the whispers grew louder, echoing with the memories of sorrow that enveloped the school, a student's suicide, an unresolved mystery that chilled her veins. Just as her racing heart began to steady, her phone buzzed, cutting through the oppressive solitude. "Mom, we're at the school," came Mia's voice, laced with mischief. "Tyler and I just wanted to explore." Her breath caught. "No, get home now." Panic surged, the thick tension in the air felt like the walls were closing in. Mia and Tyler were here, in this haunted space. She needed to protect them. Gripped with urgency, Lisa dashed through the labyrinthine hallways, each shadow morphing into ghostly figures in her mind. The school, once a place of laughter, now felt like a sinister beast, waiting for the moment to take something precious from her. Then came a thunderous boom, like a heartbeat slamming against the walls. Lisa's heart raced as she pictured where her children might be. Those echoing giggles had morphed into ghostly cries in her head. She could almost feel Mr. Caldwell watching her. Was he the key to the past that held this place in thrall? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue deeper into the shadows. Lisa found herself face to face with Mr. Caldwell, who seemed to embody the very darkness she had feared. His eyes glimmered with knowledge of secrets she wasn't ready to uncover. "You shouldn't be here, Lisa," he warned, a chilling calmness enveloping his words. The air crackled, and that unshakable sense of doom turned suffocating. A bone-chilling scream echoed down the halls, a warning, or perhaps a cry for help. Every instinct in her screamed to run, but her children were still out there, lost in the midst of this dark nightmare. Was she too late? What truth lay hidden in the murky shadows as she stood, trembling, caught between the past and whatever horror awaited ahead? The moment Mr. Caldwell's voice sliced through the thick atmosphere, Lisa felt as though the air had turned to ice. The screams echoed again, louder this time, reverberating off the floor tiles and wrapping around her like barbed wire. She launched herself past the janitor, pressing onward toward the source of the wailing. "Mom!" A desperate cry peeled away from the cacophony, and Lisa stumbled as dread anchored her limbs. Mia, Tyler. They were trapped somewhere in this labyrinth of despair. The heavy shadows seemed to pulse, thick with the existence of the dead. Their despair was palpable, clawing at her mind, coaxing forth the worst of her fears. "Where are you?" she yelled, hope faltering under the weight of the darkness. The flickering lights danced erratically, casting long shadows that played tricks on her hurried steps. Each flicker felt like a taunt, a reminder of the secrets withheld within these walls. With trembling hands, she steadied her phone's flashlight, its weak beam probing the depths of the endless hallways. The dim light caught glimpses of dusty trophies resting forgotten memories of triumph, now marred by sorrow. She pressed forward, her own breath a shallow whisper, consumed by the mounting dread. The next door she yanked open led her into the old art room, a museum of abandoned dreams. Broken easels leaned awkwardly against the walls. Forgotten half-completed canvases lay strewn across the floor like ghostly remains. The whispers continued, swirling around her like a ghastly wind. Find us, find us. God, where are you? Lisa's voice cracked as panic flared again. Her heart raced, each beat sounding like rolling thunder in her ears. Suddenly, a crash from the nearby storeroom drew her attention. She sprinted toward the sound, her footfalls echoing like the toll of a funeral bell. She shoved the door open, and the overwhelming scent of mold and decay assaulted her. Inside, boxes lay strewn about, cluttered with old supplies and remnants of student projects. It was here that she saw a faint shimmer at the far end of the room. Lisa's eyes widened, dread and curiosity fighting for dominance. Drawing closer, she stumbled upon an old, tarnished mirror leaning precariously against the wall. Its surface was murky, reflecting not just her frantic expression, but flickering images behind her, images that didn't belong to the world before her. She squinted, and the reflections shifted like a film, unraveling a frantic scene of children, laughing, faces alight with mischief. Among them, Mia and Tyler's smiles glittered as they ran, carefree. But then, the smiles twisted. An unseen force pulled them. Their laughter morphed into gasps of horror, and the scene warped, flickering between reality and nightmare. No, don't. Lisa screamed as she reached out, desperate to pull them from this haunted memory. As soon as she touched the mirror's surface, the room turned deathly cold, as if the very essence of despair had clawed its way from the glass. With a jarring crack, the reflection shattered into a mosaic of despair. Her heart dropped. What was that? Lisa gasped, reeling backward. From the recesses of the storeroom, the whispering escalated to a chorus of anguished wails. She turned to run, but Mr. Caldwell stood blocking her escape, his face now a mask of terror. You have to stop, Lisa. Don't look back. But the whispers grew louder. Faces, twisting in agony, surged from the shadows, filling the corners of the room. Haunting, pleading to be freed. Lisa's instincts flared. She bolted past Caldwell, feeling a surge of adrenaline. Mia, Tyler, she cried, plunging back into the darkness, where the echoes of laughter and screams collided ruthlessly. The walls threatened to close in again, shadows lunging at her. She had to find her children before the dread swallowed them whole. What lurked behind her, however, the true source of that sinister energy remained unseen. And as she turned another dim corner, a vision flickered just ahead, one that could shatter the thin thread of hope she clung to. What if she wasn't the only one? Seeking the past? What if others had been lost to these halls, forever excluded from reality? With each pounding step, Lisa felt the cold fingers of the past gripping her throat. The darkness morphed around her, twisting her thoughts as she plunged through the halls. The school felt alive, almost aware of her desperation. The screams and laughter echoed in an agonizing symphony, filling her ears with a panic that rose like bile in her throat. Where are you? She shouted again, her voice cracking, almost lost in the oppressive shadows. Turning sharply into a narrow hallway, she barely registered the inappropriate stillness that marked this corner. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed ominously, giving everything a sickly yellow hue. Suddenly, she skidded to a halt. At the end of the corridor, a figure stood, shrouded in darkness. Lisa's heart slammed violently against her ribs. Was it Mia? Tyler? The shadows distorted the shape, ensuring that all she could make out were limbs twisted unnaturally, a silhouette that felt so wrong. Mom, the figure croaked, its voice a ragged echo, barely intelligible. Is that you? Lisa gasped, every instinct screaming for her to flee, but she clung to the hope, driving her closer. As she approached, the figure dissolved into darkness, transforming into a swarm of wraith-like apparitions. They lounged against the walls, their eyes hollow, mouths twisted into mute screams. Lisa stumbled back, trapped by their gaze, their silent, accusing gazes. "Find us," they whispered, a chorus of despair mingling with her own terror. Lisa turned on her heel, sprinting away as the cacophony of sorrow chased her down the hall. Her phone flickered, its battery almost dead. The light dimmed suddenly, plunging her into total darkness. She froze. A heavy presence pressed down on her, suffocating in its intensity. "What happened to you?" she whispered, heart racing, pulse thundering like a war drum. Then, from behind her, she heard a soft scraping sound. It was rhythmic, like nails on wood or claws on tile. The noise grew closer, swallowing the distance between them. Holding her breath, Lisa turned just enough to glimpse its source. A dark figure, hunched and swelling with unnatural glee, its face obscured. "Mia? Tyler?" she choked out, her voice trembling. But the creature only let out a guttural laugh, one so close to human, yet horrifically alien. It was an insult to the memory of her children. Driven by instinct, Lisa hurled herself into an empty classroom, slamming the door behind her. She backed against it, her breath coming fast and shallow. The faintest glow from her phone illuminated the room, dust motes swirling around like lost spirits trapped in a nightmare. Tattered art projects adorned the walls. They were covered in dust, untouched for years. As she scanned the room, a flicker of crimson caught her eye. One of the old canvases lay on the floor, smeared with dark paint, but the shapes formed semblances that made her sick. Twisted faces, ghostly outlines of children writhing in agony. "Mom, help!" A child's voice sliced through her panic. "Mia?" It came from behind the cupboard at the far side, just visible in the faint light. She lunged toward it, her heart a fierce drum in her chest. But as she pulled the cupboard door open, there was nothing but a void, an impossible depth that seemed to suck in the surrounding light. "Mia? Tyler!" She screamed again, feeling the cold scrape of despair clawing at her throat. The laughter swelled outside, echoing off the walls, creeping in through her defenses. Shadows writhed around her legs, pulling her back even as she stumbled forward, yearning to cross to that fatal edge. "Help us, Mom!" echoed in a million tones, reverberating through her mind like broken glass. In that moment, a realization hit her. This wasn't just about finding her kids. It was about confronting a horror deeper than anything she could have imagined, a dark force that thrived on the lost, feeding off their despair, turning them into puppets forever caught in a wretched purgatory. What if nothing she did could save them? What if she too was doomed to become one with the shadows? The specters were closing in. Lisa felt her breath catch, sharp cold consuming her. And then she saw the mirror again, reflecting not just the room but something else sinister. As the laughter crescendoed into a shrill scream, she knew she had to act or risk becoming one of the haunted. The weight of the past was staggering. The mirror called to her, offering glimpses into a fate she couldn't escape. But as she stepped toward its surface, a shadow loomed behind her, one that whispered her name. And in that moment, she knew. Is this really all there is? As she braced herself for the truth lurking in that reflection, the edges of reality began to fray. She might be trapped, but there was a cost to every attempt at escape, and she felt it in her bones. What lay on the other side of that mirror was more terrifying than she could fathom. The mirror pulsated, its glass a swirling mass of shadows and dread. Lisa stared into it, her heart thundering like a caged drum, when a shrill voice pierced the atmosphere, cutting through the haze like a knife. "Mom, Mia," she cried out, her spirit flickering between hope and despair. But the words fell flat against the oppressive silence, swallowed by the thick air. The laughter outside grew more chaotic, a cacophony of taunts echoing off the walls. She felt the walls closing in, tangling her in the horror that lingered just beyond her sight. Then came the sound again, the scraping, claws on tile, but now it was joined by another, a voice, softer but no less chilling. "Help us, Mom!" It drifted from the depths beyond the mirror, laced with agony. Lisa snapped back, her instincts screaming for her to run. But where? The thought of stepping through the mirror brought her a gut-wrenching fear. What if the real horror lay behind it? What if she stepped in and saw nothing but darkness, her children forever lost? "Mom!" Each scream echoed in agonizing loops, a sickening melody that danced in her mind like the whispers of the damned. She turned from the mirror, knowing she had to confront the creature lurking behind her. Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself. Sneak a glance, just a quick look. Her resolve collapsed instantly at the sight. The hunched figure had drawn closer, its face still obscured by the black veil of shadows. A raw hunger emitted from it, seething in the air around her. It moved unnaturally, like it was dragging broken limbs across the floor. Guttural laughter welled up from its depths, a malice spilling into the air, chilling her bones. "Are you looking for someone?" It hissed, its voice a mix of intrigue and mockery. "Mia? Tyler." Her words slipped out as little more than a desperate plea. A shudder ran through her, and suddenly the room felt smaller, the walls creeping in as if they were alive. The laughter became a tidal wave, crashing against her, suffocating all hope. The figures from the hall circled, now visible through her peripheral vision, specters with eyes like bottomless pits, drawing close. Then she glimpsed an exit at the far corner, the light from a window flickering like a distant star. Could she make it? Could she push through the advancing horde? "Perhaps you should join them," the creature spoke. "They're waiting, they always are." Sneaking a glance at the mirror once more, Lisa could see vague shadows of Mia and Tyler, their faces distorted by terror. She shook her head, the images clawing at her sanity. The emptiness beyond the mirror felt like a proper and a terrifying void. "No," she shouted. The word shot from her lips like a bullet. Fueled by fear and love, she moved, propelling herself toward the door as she screamed, "I'd never leave you." But her path was interrupted. Shadows shot in front of her, writhing like serpents and pulling her back. Lisa fell to her knees, clawing at the floor, panic tightening its grip around her. "Mia? Tyler? Hold on," she yelled, her fingers scraping against the cold tile, trying to pull herself forward. The shadows twisted, setting forth an unsettling murmuring. "You have to choose, Lisa. Them or you." Her world tilted, and in that dreadful moment, she felt the weight of the decision bearing down on her soul. Heavy breaths filled her lungs, while the figures around her shifted closer, closing in. A splitting scream erupted from the depths of her mind. There was no escape, no easy answers in this haunted place. As she reached for the doorknob, the force of shadowy hands grasped her shoulders, slipping through her skin, direct and frozen, halting her every movement. Everything around her darkened, closing like a curtain on the performance of her thoughts. And then, from within the depths of despair, she heard her children's voices once more, fragmented, pleading, pulling her back toward the mirror. "Mom, we need you." With a heart-stopping realization, the truth hit her. Could she bear to abandon them? As shadows hissed and laughter echoed in swirling darkness, she gathered every ounce of courage left inside her. This wasn't just about escape. This was a fight for her children's very souls. Every shadow has a secret, the whisper oozed. And with it, the mirror beckoned her once more. What lay beyond was uncertain, but Lisa knew she had to find out. Will she dive into the unknown, risking everything to save them, or will she let the darkness consume her? The decision loomed, and even more terrifying questions arose. What if the truth was far worse than the horror she presently faced? Lisa could feel the shadows tightening their grip on her. Every ounce of resistance was evaporating as she was torn between the ethereal cries of her children and the malevolent presence behind her. She could almost sense the slime of fear rolling off the creature, grasping at her, teasing her resolve. The mirror stood ominously, pulsating and beckoning like a dark promise. "No, I won't let you take me," she shouted defiantly. The shadows jerked away from her as if stung, briefly halting their relentless advance. But the twisted laughter only grew louder, more chilling. "Mommy, please." The voices wailed, intertwined with the monstrous giggles of the creature. Her head spun. She couldn't think straight. Was this a part of their trap, or were her children truly lost on the other side? The decision slammed against her like a tidal wave. In one moment of clarity, she recalled the stories her mother used to tell her about the dangers that lurk in mirrors, how they can reflect not only our visage but our very soul. The thought paralyzed her. Which part of her reflected back love or cowardice? The unpredictable truth loomed frighteningly close. "Lisa," the creature hissed, its breath hot on her neck, making her skin crawl. "They are waiting. You can have them back, but you must join them in the dark." Its long, skeletal fingers reached closer, grazing her shoulder and freezing her to the floor. She felt a shiver cascade down her spine. "Stop!" she shouted, gritting her teeth. Summoning all the courage she had left, she bolted towards the mirror, her heart pounding. As she approached, her reflection twisted and morphed, shadows swirling like storm clouds. There, just beneath the surface, she could see Mia and Tyler. Their eyes shone with desperation. "Mom!" they cried in unison, their faces pale and etched with fear. "Help us!" It was a spellbinding sight, her own flesh and blood pleading for rescue. An instinct surged within her. Lisa pressed her trembling palms against the cold glass, feeling an otherworldly energy rippling through, beckoning her into its depth. "Come to us, Mom. We need you." The cries pierced through the thick darkness, filling her with a fierce determination to fight. But as she leaned closer, the creature roared behind her, shaking the floor. "You shouldn't have come here. You think you can save them? You'll only become one of us." For a moment, sheer terror flooded her veins. Ignoring the warnings blaring in her mind, she howled, "I won't abandon you." Then, in a single unsteady breath, she lunged forward. The mirror sucked her in like a hungry beast, pulling her deep into the void. A chill wrapped around her like a serpent, and the world behind her faded into silence. She found herself in a realm of dark echoes, an infinite expanse with swirling mist. The air felt thick, constricting her lungs, disbelief smothering her senses. All around her, whispered voices slithered, hissing tales of despair that pricked her skin like needles. "Mommy?" Tyler's voice broke through the chaos, sweet and haunting, laced with tremors of fear. "Mia?" Lisa called out, scanning the shadowy landscape. The children were near, but the echoes of the creature rumbled ominously. "You can't escape the truth, they are lost. Join us." The fog thickened, pulling at her resolve. Panic clawed at her throat. They hadn't been here long, they couldn't be lost. She wouldn't believe it. "Fight it," she urged herself, sensing the flickering shadows drawing closer, aligning with her fears. "You don't belong here." But the voices came again, now morphed into agonizing cries that echoed the torment of the damned. "Mom, help us." An invisible tendril reached for her heart, wrapping tighter and tighter. Lisa gasped, sensing darkness creeping at the edges of her sanity. "Choose." The shadows bellowed, a cacophony of agony and laughter. Just then, a burst of brilliance illuminated the haze, the fierce light of love. With renewed resolve, Lisa screamed into the suffocating dark, "I choose to fight." The world shattered around her as the shadows convulsed, losing their grip. But in that moment, she felt the tug once more, her children's essence dancing out of the clutches of despair. The battle had only just begun. Now every second counted. Would she be able to find them in this hell, or would she fall deeper into the darkness? And out of the chaos, a menacing question lingered: what sacrifices awaited her for the sake of her children? The darkness swirled around Lisa like a living thing, every shadow pulsing with a heartbeat that echoed her fears. She could feel the cold settling into her bones, a grip of dread suffocating her resolve. "Mom!" The cries of her children pierced through the haze again, a sweet melody twisted by sorrow. They were near, but the path was crumbling before her, the shadows shifting like treacherous tides. "Stay strong, I'm coming." Her voice trembled, bouncing off the walls of this malevolent limbo. Yet, uncertainty clawed at her thoughts. Was she leading them into danger? Or was it her children's faith that would pull her from this abyss? Panic exploded in Lisa's chest as the ground underneath her shimmered with darkness. It beckoned, each flicker promising release from her torment, a path to eternal rest in the embrace of shadows. "No," she growled, forcing her feet to move forward. The mist thickened, blurring her vision, but she pressed through, navigating by the faint cries that echoed in her heart. "Mommy!" They sounded closer now. She could sense their presence. But the creature's laughter melded with the whispers, both taunting and promising. "Join us, Lisa, you can't save them. You can only save yourself." "Shut up," she screamed, forcing her mind to focus solely on her children's cries. Each step was a battle against the pull of despair. Suddenly, the shadows erupted into a frenzied swirl, revealing figures trapped within the mist, a theater of lost souls twisted in agony. Their eyes were wide, mouths twisted in silent screams. They reached for her, shadows clawing for her warmth. It was a warning, a fate that awaited anyone who dared to linger. Horrified, she stumbled back. I want to become like you. The creatures hissed and whined, their whispers growing louder, a dissonant symphony of despair. You can't escape, Lisa. Everything you love is here with us. She could still hear Mia and Tyler as if their voices were close, almost tangible. Mom, we're scared. They were fading, slipping farther into the dark. The thought made her heart thud violently against her ribcage. Hold on, she shouted, the desperation fueling her energy. A rush surged through her. She wouldn't stop. As she sprinted, the shadows coiled around her like snakes. She could feel their cold seeping into her, their whispers promising sweet release and end to the pain, and end to the fight. She broke through the swirling darkness, and ahead she saw them, Mia and Tyler. Their faces were pale, eyes wide with fear, fists clenched as if holding onto something unseen. Mommy, Mom. Their voices filled her with fierce urgency. Grab my hands. Lisa beckoned, but the gap between them widened. A dark wave surged, blocking her path, threatening to pull her back into the depths. Just as she reached out, the creature emerged from the thick fog, its eyes glowing with malice. You'll sacrifice everything for them. What will you give, Lisa? It taunted, its voice slithering into her mind. Anything, she screamed, feeling desperation transform into raw power. I will not lose them. I refuse. The shadows recoiled slightly as her words hung in the air like a sword. She could feel the burn of her love shattering their grip. But was it enough? The figures of Mia and Tyler flickered. Mommy, please. They pleaded, reaching out desperately, the space between them charged with energy. Could she bridge that gap? Would she lose herself to save them, or find a way to defeat the darkness? Conflicting thoughts raged within her. But in the depths of her heart, a flame burned fiercely. No more shadows. I will fight for you until my last breath. With that declaration, the shadows shrieked in frustration. She charged forward, eyes locked on her children. But as she closed in, a chilling realization crept in. What if the shadows were right? What awaited her on the other side? A choice loomed ahead, heavy and palpable, and regardless of the pain, Lisa knew the answer, yet the shadows whispered seduction all around, promising peace and an end to her suffering. What would she find if she chose to confront the dark? Head on, to stand firm in her choice? Time slipped through her fingers like sand, thickening the air with tension, as she reached out once more against the consuming void that threatened to swallow them all. Would she cross the threshold, or be lost to the darkness forever? The energy crackled as Lisa lunged forward, but the shadows recoiled, a torrent of darkness that threatened to engulf her. All at once, the cries of her children sliced through her like a knife, igniting every mother's instinct buried under layers of fear. Mom, help us. Their voices battled against the monstrous cacophony, calling her back to them, but the pull of the shadows was strong. I'm coming, she gasped, the weight of the ominous presence pressing against her chest. Her heart raced as she fought through the suffocating darkness. The ground beneath her seemed to shift and quake, and each step she took felt like running in place, her body moving, yet not getting any closer. Another shriek split the air, not from her children, but from something darker, something ancient that had taken root in this realm. The fog thickened, painted in shades of black and deep gray, swirling like a living predator. The creature's figure materialized anew, more grotesque than before, its jagged teeth glinting like old knives. You think you can rescue them? It taunted, its voice a slithering hiss that crawled under her skin. Leave them alone. Lisa shrieked, a mix of rage and despair surging through her veins. The creature's laughter echoed, cruel and mocking, and echoed off the walls of the dark void. With fierce determination, she pushed through the invisible barrier that separated her from her children, inching closer as the ground below crystallized into an ominous trap of shadows. She could see Mia and Tyler more clearly now, their faces glistening with tears, little mirrors of her own broken heart. Mommy, please, they called, and Lisa felt her soul twist at their fear. But time was running short. The walls seemed to pulse with the entity's malignance, time and space twisting in ways she couldn't comprehend. Hold on, she shouted, reaching out with everything in her. She could feel the warmth of their hands brushing against her fingertips, a lifeline against the encroaching darkness. But then, as if sensing her desperation, the shadows erupted around her, swirling fiercely, creating an inescapable vortex. The tendrils of darkness tightened, wrapping cruelly around her limbs, dragging her back. "You will never escape this place, Lisa. Here, you belong to me." "No, not like this," she screamed, the panic igniting every nerve in her body as the creature's laughter wrapped around her like a shroud. They were close, so close, but even with her will burning bright, the struggle felt insurmountable. The children's figures flickered like hesitant flames, and the sensation of losing them threatened to unravel her. The shadows pushed back harder, a wall of despair bearing down on her spirit. "You just want peace, don't you, Lisa? Let go. Embrace the shadows," it whispered, luring her with the promise of an end to the pain. Suddenly, a love so fierce it transcended the shadows enveloped her, igniting a new fire in her heart. "Never. My love for them is stronger than any darkness." With a final surge of adrenaline, she pushed against the darkness, feeling a crack form in the veil like a ray of light piercing through a storm. She focused all her energy on this one moment, ready to break through, but just then, she felt a sharp pain as the shadows clawed at her, tearing at her resolve. What if the shadows found a way to strengthen their grip? What if she wasn't strong enough? Desperation flooded her senses, choking her will. "Mommy, please." Mia and Tyler's cries echoed like an old melody weighed with sorrow. In that moment, doubt crept back in, insidious and against everything she believed. Would she sacrifice everything for a fleeting chance? Would the shadows draw her in a prison of despair forever? As Lisa wavered, the choice loomed ahead, wrapping her in shadows thick like fog. Could she find the strength to face the darkness, or would she slip into its cold embrace, never to return? With a shuddering breath, she swallowed the fear. She was a mother, and she would fight for them no matter the cost. As the walls trembled, the shadows swirled and drew tighter, the creature sensing its victory. A roar of defiance exploded from Lisa's heart as the final threads of doubt crumbled. She had to move now, had to take that leap. Would she dive into the dark to save her children, or become another lost soul, doomed to wander? A blinding light erupted from within Lisa as she finally pushed against the suffocating darkness. It was a light born of hope, of desperation, a blazing defiance against the shadows that threatened to consume her. She felt the creature recoil, its hissing faltering as the brightness expanded. This was her moment. With a frantic scream, she lunged forward, the warmth of her children guiding her through the haze. The shadows shrieked, the air thick with their rage. They twisted and slipped like water, trying to ensnare her once more, but she pressed on, tearing through the veil that separated her from Mia and Tyler. "Mommy!" Their voices echoed, but now they were not mere cries for help. They resonated with strength, a call that matched her own escalating determination. Their hands once again brushed against hers, the warmth igniting every ounce of her resolve. But the entity was furious. "You think this light will save you? You are merely delaying the inevitable." Its eyes glowed with malice, and the shadows writhed with renewed ferocity. Behind her, the dark vortex spun violently, sending tendrils of despair in her direction. She could feel the pull, the weight of its hunger. Lisa's heart thundered in her chest, but there was no time to falter. She could almost taste the metallic tang of fear in the air. "Hold on to me. Together," she shouted, her voice widening the gap between despair and hope. As she drew closer, the shadows flickered and receded, reluctance spreading through their dark form. The creature hissed, its jagged teeth spilling spittle. "You will regret this." With one last lurch, Lisa's fingers collided with her children's small, slippery hands. Mia and Tyler clung to her fiercely, their grip a lifeline stronger than any chain. And in that moment, a surge of energy flowed through them. Dread met defiance, and she felt as if she and her children had created a circle of light that would push the darkness away. But just then, a heart-wrenching pop resonated in the ether. The internal cohesion splintered as fragments of the light shattered, scattering across the void like glass. The walls trembled, a low growl reverberating from the beast behind them. "No, no," Lisa screamed as the shadows clawed back, tightening their grasp on her body, pulling her into their clutches. "Let us go." The children screamed, not in anguish, but in a newfound terror as they felt the weight of shadows creep around their ankles. "Mommy, it hurts." They twisted, thrashing against the constricting darkness. She could see their faces, twisted in fear, and for a moment, the ground cracked beneath her, splitting wide like a gaping maw waiting to swallow them whole. The apparition took form behind them, the creature larger, angrier, a monstrous silhouette against the glowing chaos they had created. It loomed, drawing energy from the darkness, sending a wave racing toward them. "I will feast on your fears." It roared, its voice booming through the void as the shadows slashed through the air. "Run," Lisa urged, but the ground felt alive, quaking and undulating beneath her feet, as if supporting the creature's vile intentions. The distance back to safety felt impossibly long. Suddenly, Mia slipped, her hand loosening from Lisa's grip. "No." Panic clawed at Lisa's throat as she reached for her daughter, but the darkness pulled them apart, the shadows trying to envelop Mia. In that split second, something shifted inside Lisa, a primal instinct ignited. "Come back," she snarled, launching herself toward her frightened daughter. Time slowed. The beast was closer, a leviathan of despair. There was no telling what would happen when it reached them. Could she save her children? Would she go down to the dark depths to retrieve them? Yet, in the instinctive chaos, doubt flickered again, a chilling specter whispering that perhaps surrender was the only escape. As she dove into the unforgiving shadows, a blinding flash sent tendrils of hope crystallizing forward. What awaited for her in the pitch-black abyss? Would she find Mia, or would the shadows claim them all? The answers lay just beyond, as the creature unleashed a deafening roar, a prelude to a nightmarish clash. The darkness closed in around Lisa like a wet blanket, heavy and suffocating. She could feel her heart pounding in her ears, the sound masking the growls of the creature lurking beyond. Every breath was a battle as she fought against the blackness that threatened to pull her under. But she couldn't think of herself now. She needed to find Mia. "Hold on, sweetheart," she yelled, forcing her voice to rise above the chaos, a beacon in the dark. "I will find you." The air was filled with the acrid stench of decay, and shadows danced around her legs, latching on like greedy fingers. Every step felt like wading through molasses, slow and unyielding. But Lisa pressed on, fueled by sheer desperation, the memory of Mia's face shining bright in her mind. "Mommy." Mia's voice echoed, weaker now. It sliced through the murmurs of the shadows, a glimmer of hope amidst despair. Lisa's heart twisted at the sound, pushing her forward faster. "Stay with me, I'm coming." The words tumbled from her lips, but self-doubt churned in her stomach. What if she couldn't reach her? What if the shadows took them both? Around her, the darkness pulsated and shifted, alive with malevolence. "You cannot escape," the creature hissed, its voice like shards of glass, cutting through her resolve. "Embrace the void, it is a comfort you will never forget. Get away from us." Lisa screamed, fueling each step with unyielding fury. She would not let this monster win. Not today. She wouldn't let it take her children. Yet, as she stumbled deeper into the shadows, an overwhelming cold washed over her, making her bones ache. She pressed on, fear morphing into sheer anger. "Get away," she shouted again, wild with panic. "My love." Another voice sliced through the darkness. "Tyler." The realization ignited a new wave of despair. Both of her children were trapped. Desperation coursed through her veins, and she didn't stop to think before sprinting toward that voice. "I'm almost there," she called out, but the shadows tightened around her, pulling her closer to the mouth of the abyss. Each twist and lunge knocked the wind from her lungs, but she refused to falter. "Where are you, Tyler?" she gasped, fighting the shrouds of despair that clung to her. Suddenly, a horrid laugh echoed around her, followed by a chorus of whispers. "They're lost. You cannot save them. They belong to the dark now. No, they are mine. I want to lose them." Her voice shook with fierce determination as she barreled through the blackness, limbs flailing, desperate. And then she saw them, a flicker, a silhouette just ahead. "I see you," Lisa cried, relief fueling her stride. But she faltered, her feet slipping on something slick and unseen. The shadows were alive beneath her, writhing, tugging at her. She wobbled, struggling to regain her footing. No, not again. Mommy. Mia's voice grew fainter, swallowed by the creeping darkness. Lisa stretched out her hand, desperation clawing at her throat. Just a little farther. She felt fingers brushing hers, but the connection flickered uncertainly. The shadows howled, a cacophony of anguish and anger, angering the very darkness itself. Lisa gasped as the ground shifted violently beneath her, splitting wider like the gaping maw of hell. Let me go? She roared, feeling the creature's presence growing more menacing behind her. With a final push, she lunged forward, grasping Mia's small hand with trembling fingers. Got you. But the victory was short-lived. The darkness surged, and the creature roared with fury, a monstrous sound that sent ice racing down her spine. For every inch they gained, the shadows clawed back, relentless. As Lisa pulled Mia closer, Tyler slipped from her grasp, falling into the void. The reality of that moment punched hard, knocking the air from her lungs. No. Despair surged as Lisa felt the echoes of their bond fraying. Hold on, Tyler. I'll get you back. But something dark and insistent wrapped around her legs, pulling, dragging her into the abyss once more. She looked into Mia's frightened eyes, clarity washing over them. Stay strong, my love. Mommy. Mia wailed, terror vibrating through her frail voice. The creature's laughter filled the void, a chilling reminder of their plight. You cannot hold on to your hopes. They will fade to black. Just like your children. The shadows swirled, tugging mercilessly, and just like that, Lisa felt the light within her flicker. This time, would hope shine through, or would shadows swallow them whole? Everything around them quaked as the battle intensified, and Lisa braced herself for a fate worse than darkness. She had no idea if they could escape or if this was the end. What other secrets hid behind the veil of shadows? And what price would she have to pay to keep her family from the abyss? The darkness tightened its grip around Lisa as a thunderous roar echoed through the void. She could feel the malevolent presence of the creature coiling around her, its claws almost tasting her fear. Every second felt like an eternity, the shadows whispering poisonous curses, taunting her, reminding her of her impending failure. Mia, Tyler, she shouted, desperation coloring her voice, a lifeline thrown into the churning abyss. Her heart pounded, a relentless drum echoing her resolve to not let fear consume her. She plunged deeper, fueled not only by love but by the unyielding will to save her children, no matter the cost. The ground beneath her felt like quicksand, shifting her balance with every step she took. She could see the outline of her children, a fuzzy vision through the murky veil that separated them. I'm coming. Just hold on. The shadows writhed like serpents, leaning towards her as if trying to nip at her heels. But the laughter of the creature drowned out her words, a chilling sound that twisted her stomach. You think you can save them? They are mine. They belong to the shadows. It taunted, the darkness around him swirling like a storm ready to break. She saw Mia's terrified face, shining through the darkness like a beacon. Mommy, please. It broke her heart, igniting something molten and fierce in her chest. With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward, pushing through the grimy veil that pressed against her, fighting each shadow, each whisper attempting to drag her back into despair. Not today, she growled, determination burning in her veins. As she thrust a hand forward, she felt Mia's fingers slip into hers. The contact sent warmth rushing through her. But the creature was relentless, slithering closer, its presence an avalanche of dark energy that threatened to bury them both. Let go of her, Lisa roared, pulling with every ounce of her strength. The darkness snarled, lashing out, claws digging into her arms. The creature's voice roared in rage, no one escapes. With newfound rage, she tightened her grip on Mia's hand. We're getting out of this together. In a moment of clarity, she felt Tyler's presence brushing against her spirit, and it ignited an even deeper resolve. She could almost feel him, somewhere, waiting for her. Suddenly the ground shook, and the shadows swelled, threatening to engulf them. You cannot hold on to hope. It will bleed you dry. The creature shrieked, its body a mass of twisting shadows that pulsated with anger. No, Lisa screamed defiantly. You think you can win? My love is stronger than your darkness. With a fierce kick of adrenaline, she dug her feet in, feeling a tether between her heart and her children. "Tyler," she bellowed, desperation leaking into her voice, shattering the veil of darkness in her mind. "I'm here, Mommy," a voice called back faintly, and she felt her resolve solidifying like iron. It spread through her, a raw, fiery energy igniting her spirit. "Then you hold on too," she cried, her voice carving a path through the chaos. "We will fight. We will get out." The shadows trembled in response, the creature recoiling slightly from the purity of her resolve. "No, you cannot escape," it hissed, but the urgency in its voice only fueled her tenacity. Together, she rallied, moving forward, dragging Mia behind her. They stumbled, but she felt them pulling away from the darkness, the shadows losing their grip. But just then, a shadowy whip lashed out, knocking her off balance. "You'll never leave," it growled. "Join us, Lisa. There's no escape. Ours is the true existence. Not for me, and not for them." Lisa snarled. She pressed on, her love unfurling like a banner in the dark. As they drew closer, she could see Tyler materializing from the shadows, his face illuminated with fright but determined. "Mom, we knew you'd come." Hope bubbled in her chest like a volcano ready to erupt. "Grab my hands," she yelled, reaching for him. All three of them united. The warmth of their combined strength surged through her core, illuminating the darkness flickering around them. But the creature's fury exploded, blasting shadows in all directions as it grasped wildly. "You will be mine," it roared, its claws scraping against the ground like nails on chalkboard. "No," Lisa shouted, feeling the walls of despair closing in once more. "We will break free." With a final, united scream, the trio thrust forward. A blinding light enveloped them, spilling through the edges of the concave shadows, filling the void until nothing remained but a shining spiral of hope. The shadows recoiled in sheer agony, their screeches a concerto of despair echoing behind them. Lisa felt the collective pulse of her children behind her, anchoring her through the surge of light as it pierced the dark, mangled mass before them. In a flash, they were pulled through, the force of their unity forming a light that shattered the shadows, sending them screaming back into the abyss. The three fell onto solid ground, collapsing into a heap on the floor, gasping and heaving in the liberated air of the old storeroom. Lisa blinked back tears, holding tightly to their hands, her heart racing in the cocoon of safety that finally surrounded them. "Mia, Tyler." She cocooned them in her arms, relief washing over her in waves. "We made it. We are free." In the distance, a muffled roar echoed from the depths, evidence of the battle they fought. "But they had won. I thought we lost you," Mia whispered, her small frame trembling. "Never. I will always find you," Lisa promised, brushing the strands of hair from her children's faces, her heart swelling with fierce love. As they held onto each other tightly, the weight of the horror they had just escaped began to melt away, and the strength of their bond shimmered, something that would always keep them anchored in the light. With dawn creeping through the windows, the heavy shadows of Evergreen High would never haunt them again. Together, they would step into a new day, turning their backs on the lingering shrouds of darkness, forever bound by love, a powerful light radiating against the darkness that could never be broken. And just like that, they stepped back into the world of the living, greeted by the sunlight that washed over them, warm and pure, affirming that together, they could conquer anything. Now, take a moment to reflect on this incredible journey. If you enjoyed this story and don't want to miss more like it, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, so we can keep sharing these exclusive tales with you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What do you think will happen next? And finally, please instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Your support means everything to us.